sun setting in the ocean. And you're saying I'm making an error.
Yeah.
Of what kind?
A descriptive error.
Which is what?
Error,
what is the error?
To say that it's setting in the ocean when it's actually just setting.
Did you see it setting in the ocean?
No.
Where was it setting?
It's called the sunset.
Where was it setting?
What do you mean? It's going out.
I'm speaking
of
English.
View. It's going out of view.
Yeah, so it's setting.
It's going out of view.
Okay, what is sunset?
It's when
in English language.
It's when the sun goes over the horizon.
Right. So, did you witness that going down over the horizon?
What do you mean?
Yes, you did.
Did I go?
In your description, if you went to a beach, you saw that happening, going down around the horizon. And I relate the same information. Am I making an error?
If you want to go back, and if you say that it's setting in the sea, yes.
That's what you saw.
No, I didn't see you can, but you'll be. I see it going over the horizon.
Oh yeah, that's.
So when people say I saw the sun setting in the ocean, it's actually not setting in the ocean.
I would say that's yes.
So that statement is grammatically incorrect.
Yes. Yeah. I'd say descriptively.
Descriptively incorrect. So all these people who describe this in the literature, you're going to correct them, right? They said you make a description error.
Well,
like yours, my dear.
In fact, let me ask you this question.
No, you did ask me a question.
No, you
did ask me.
No, I'm not finished yet.
No, but you asked me.
I am not finished yet, visitor. No, not yet.
No.
Does the sun ever set?
Take it easy. Take it easy.
Well,
so you made an error.
No.
Does the sun ever set?
That you asked me.
No, answer that question. Does the sun ever set?
In relative terms.
No. Does the sun ever set?
No.
So you made an error by saying the sun sets.
So what I would say.
So why did you make that error?
It's relative.
Hang on. Relatively. Why did you make that error?
It's your way out. Because you couldn't
Sorry,
prove
but
it.
you're not actually listening. You've asked me a couple of questions.
Hang on.
And one of
Visitor.
You've asked me one.
Okay.
No, you've asked me a question.
What time is sunset tomorrow?
You want to talk to me, my dear? You want to debate? You want to debate on camera?
You've got a location.
Hang on. Sunset tomorrow will be at 15:53. It got it wrong, right? It's an error.
Well, it depends what you're talking about. You've got a location service that gives you more information.
Visitors, you want to describe yourself? So, when the newspaper, when online somebody says sunrise and sunset, they're making all error. They're all errors.
You're good, my dear.
No, what I said to you, but you won't give me a chance.
Excuse me.
Is that there? No,
did they make an error?
No. Can you if you just let me finish slightly what I'm saying? I'm suggesting to you that everyone makes relative errors in the way they describe things.
Sure.
But if you are saying that a particular piece of literature is perfect, then that error shouldn't take place. So there's differences in relative errors. So lots of people can make slang descriptions of how things work or how they don't work. When you looked on your phone what time the sun set, it has background information which gives you a location service, because actually the sunset is setting all the time, isn't it? It doesn't set to 5:53 here, 4:53 here, whatever it is. It's actually setting everywhere, and in essence the sun is just the sun, isn't it? It doesn't disappear.
So you accept that this is not an error, even though it says sunset?
No. I'm saying to you that we make all relative descriptions, and they could be technically seen as errors or not. But what I would say is that it's a grammatically descriptive error to say that the sun is setting in the sea.
The error in your description right now is this. When the Quran describes someone's perception, how they perceive the sun setting, you're saying it's an error. You should ask Dhul Qarnayn why he's making that assumption. Why? Because he's actually seeing it. So it's a perception of Dhul Qarnayn. If you saw, and you said, I saw it setting behind the trees, and somebody says, oh, it's an error of a description, then perhaps you need to be real open to understanding of how language works. How language works.
Can you quote me 1883 then, where it says in the Quran, in your best...
it says very clearly, وَجَدَ عِنْدَهَا تَغْرُبُ. He found it going down. He found it going down. So in his perception, that's how he saw it. And the Quran is simply describing it, and yet you consider it to be error. I have to say, really, I mean, you have to do better than that.
Why would, if you've got any water source, a puddle or anything, then effectively you could have a perception of the sun setting in any kind of reflection. Why would you even bother putting that into?
I find it strange the way you...
Because it's a place.
I find it strange the way you look at a text. When the text gives you description of an event that happened, you are saying, why is it like that? It should be like this instead. Quran describes the events, the journeys of a person called Zulqarnain, the two horned ones. He went east and he went west. He went to different people and how he interacted with the people. You were saying, oh, why did he discuss with these people? He should have discussed with the Europeans. That's your problem. When the Quran says this particular individual went to a place near sunset, so he was there when the sun was setting. And where did he perceive in his perception the sun was setting? In this Hamia. Yes?
What's that mean?
In the spring. He saw it going down in the spring. You are saying, oh, this is an error. I mean, I have to say that not only your understanding of literature is very weak, as well as understanding common language when people describe what people saw when they narrate it back. So if you consider this is an error, then I have to say really you need to deeply reflect on your life, deeply. Because the Quran says, have they not considered the Quran with care, with utter, deep reflection? If you did, you will find no discrepancies whatsoever. That's the challenge of the Quran. You look at the surface and say, oh, it's an error. I'm sorry to say that.
Is it a possibility, if you don't mind me asking, is it a possibility that it was talking about by what you read here? Is there a possibility it meant that it's going just a normal sunset that you were describing? Is there a possibility?
Well, I think that's the argument, isn't it? But you put words into my mouth. I'm saying that if it is a normal sunset near any element of near a hot spring or otherwise, the issue is what is the question that I would ask you, because you have read it deeply and I haven't, is why would you, not that it's why would you want to locate a place with a piece of water and then link that into the that's genuine question.
Yeah, fair. I don't think that really proves one way or the other. Should I explain something to you? You had the verses.
No, because I guess it's two I think it'd be difficult. There's two hypotheses really, isn't it? There's one that would be the argument that this is a literal situation of the sun setting, a place in the world where it sets, and that's a description of it. And there is a people around that people. So it's a very meaningful place, the exact place where the sun sets. That's one hypothesis, which would be an argument, which is viable. And the other argument is that it's just a sunset near a pool of water.
Okay. And do you have that other verse? Do you have the verse?
Right.
I just want to show.
What the Quran is simply saying, in his travels, he came then when the sun was setting. He came to a place near sunset, right? Time or place. So when he came to the place and the sun was setting, you are saying, why does anywhere? Why does the Quran give extra detail? It's because this is what he saw. What's your problem with that?
Well, it's not a matter of.
What's your problem?
Problem with that is the meaning or the benefit of that description in the Quran.
The benefit of the description is describing how he perceived in that setting.
He came to a body of water where he couldn't go further. He saw the sun setting. He's saying that's as furthest he'd reached. What I want to show you was, do you want to read the next verse? If you don't mind, have you got the?
Before we go into this, this is quite interesting. Now you're questioning that it's not an error. This is your underlying assumption now. It's not an error.
I was correcting the issue about you putting words in my mouth.
But you made these errors of assumptions. You are saying it's an error. Of what kind? Grammatical description.
You keep telling me that I made it an error. What I was actually arguing.
I am showing you the errors in your thinking. That's what I'm doing. You consider the Quran to be an error, I'm saying your thinking is an error.
Okay.
That the Quran is simply saying he saw it setting.
That's it.
He saw the sun going down. Your problem then now is actually, why is this extra description?
The next verse actually.
What's your
proves it,
problem? Does this, the next verse?
Yes, if you don't mind, can you just show me the next verse, please?
But can you get facts on Google?
What is the verse after that? You know, he actually went. So he went to two sides of the world, didn't he? He went one side where he saw the sun setting, as you say.
And he went to people where the sun was rising.
Yeah, and what is
they
actually,
had no shelter.
What is the actual wording? I'd just like to. Sorry, if you can find that. If you don't mind, brother Mansur, just for a second. He found the sun rising. Yeah.
Where, in another bit?
No, yeah. If you just, do you want me to find it? Is that the chapter?
I'm not sure. I mean,
Brother Mansur, do you remember the actual?
No, it's along this.
Yeah,
along this
you can find
paragraph.
the.
Because it shows you.
I don't know. Have you got a phone? Get it?
So,
Okay, let me paraphrase to you.
so it's no longer
Yeah.
an error. It's about why is it additional detail.
No. The question was, the question that people might have is that it's either an error in saying that the sun does actually set into a
Pool of water.
hot spring.
Because people are not.
Yeah.
The people who think that is because they're not thinking properly.
Exactly.
I don't know, but I'm explaining the two.
Yeah, fine. Go ahead.
Right?
Go ahead.
That's one hypothesis.
Yeah, so you can get rid of that easily.
Well,
They're not reading it properly.
Let's see the next bit.
and then the other hypothesis is that it's just a random place with
Okay,
water,
sure.
which could be pretty much anywhere in the world.
Okay, sure. And the next part,
Helpful description.
I'll just explain the next part.
go.
But it's not an error.
Yeah, and the next part, and I'll paraphrase it for you, yeah? And when he went to the other side, he found the sun rising over a people. Okay? Now, by the logic that you're going by, or anyone would go by with this thing here, are we saying here that the sun is coming out the heads of people or coming out of from a people? Do you see my point here? Do you see my point here, though? Could we really logically have those two hypotheses? I mean, seriously, you go to one side of the world, you see the sun setting, yeah, behind a pool of water, whatever, a sea, yeah, or a lake, whatever you want to refer it to, yeah. Now, in a pool, okay, fine, in a pool. Now, on the opposite side, he goes and he finds the sun rising over a people. Are we going to actually really entertain two hypotheses here? The one is, there's a people who are living there and he sees that the sun is rising when he got there. Or, just one second, I'll just finish off. Yeah? So we arrive and we find a village and the sun is rising at that side where the extent of where we reached. Or are we actually going to entertain a second hypothesis here, and that is the sun rises from behind these human beings, from the backs of their heads or something. Do you see my point, my friend?
Can you clarify?
Is that fair? But did you understand that hypothesis?
I understand, but can you clarify to me wherever there are people where the sun doesn't rise from behind them?
Fair question. Check this out. If we're riding in that direction, can you see people here at the moment? Are there any people here at the moment on that field? None. If we go, are there any people on this field? Not this one here. This one here. No. This field here, is there any people there? No. Now, if we continue, and especially if we're talking about back then, you would find masses of land where there's no one there.
Yeah.
Is this fair?
Yeah.
Okay. So we come to a village, or we come to a place where there are people. Yeah. When the sun is rising, are we actually going to entertain the fact that the sun rises from the backs of these people's heads? Do you see my point, my friend?
My question was, if you come to any group of people and the sun rises, how descriptive or helpful is that?
Okay, for example, if I set out and I arrived in the morning, well, how would I explain that? Would I say it's 5 o'clock? They didn't have, just to clarify, sorry, my friend. I wouldn't say it's 5 o'clock back then because we don't have watches. So I would say I arrived when the sun was rising. I found the sun rising over a people. Now, I find it very hard to entertain that the sun is rising from within these humans.
No.
So the fact
rising over.
that's fair. So then it would be, again, very logical to determine the previous verse that what the sun was setting when he arrived, whether it be a muddy pool of water, whether it be a lake, or whether it be a sea. My friend, I think it's clear. I don't understand what people are going on about.
The Quran simply describes his journeys where, at what point he reached a particular group of people. During sunset, he reached one type of people and he did something. Another time, he reached a place when the sun was rising at that time and he dealt with this kind of people, a group of people. It's a way of describing the time he reached to a particular area of people and he had some interactions with them. By saying this is an error in the Quran, I am clearly saying people are not reading the Quran properly, they're not even thinking deeply, and they're just generating errors when the errors doesn't even exist. That's all.
I guess the reason why that happens is because people are considering that perhaps at the time people had a more magical view of where the sun set or even the earth being flat, and so therefore the context, although it seems ludicrous from a 20th century, 21st century mind, it may be within that context different. And that's where
a 20th century mind reading the Quran, when the Quran doesn't say the earth is flat, and he's just simply saying this man journeys. Look, what people try to import in their own thinking, errors and contradictions when reading the Quran. For these people, Quran says, reflect deeply, ponder on the Quran deeply. When you ponder on the Quran deeply, nothing of these sorts of contradictions that you've generated in your mind will remain. The Quran doesn't say there is no contradiction. It says, have you, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ, have they made tadabbur, deep reflection and contemplation? They would have found that there's no discrepancies whatsoever. So this discrepancies is in the mind of superficial reading. That's all I'm arguing. Superficial reading, you can believe in anything. Oh, the Quran says like wonderful, astonishing.
Here's another two hypotheses: is that there potentially are some errors in the Quran,
such as.
No. Let me just put the hypothesis first. There's potentially errors in the Quran, and obviously it puts itself in a position of zero errors. So it's unlike the Bible. And so there's potentially errors in the Quran, and that scholars have argued away those errors. That would be one hypothesis. The other hypothesis is there is absolutely no errors.
No. A very strange way of looking at things. This is the Quran. It either has errors or it doesn't. You only have two options. And you examine them both, these claims. If you have errors, you should be able to find them. If you can't find any errors, the Quranic claim stands, it is free from errors.
There's the other description, because Islam was the beginning of algebra, wasn't it?
Let's return back to the Quran.
Yeah. That was the
Quran either has errors within it or it doesn't. You have no other alternative options.
So the other
you have no other options.
The other famous possible error that you can refute is the issue around inheritance, when the argument that
What is the error in inheritance?
The issue would be that I can't remember the details on it.
Sure. So if you have a father or a mother leaving certain
with
portions,
the parents survive,
and you have children like this, it doesn't add up.
9/8.
Right. But here is the problem. Every single verse which talks about this, if you apply that situation, you'll never come to an error. Where does the Quran say? I'm arguing in one different point. Where does the Quran say you have to take that situation from one verse, and another situation from one verse, and amalgamate and make a new rule? Every single verse or ayah in the Quran which talks about a particular inheritance, this situation amounts to exactly, mathematically, as you would say, correct description in your own mathematical understanding, right? You would say that's exactly, it doesn't go beyond one, it doesn't go less than one. It's exactly as it is. When you amalgamate hang on, not circumstance. Where does the Quran say when you have a father leaving two daughters and one mother? Let me hypothetically, because I can't remember exactly. Imagine now there's an error which is what? You have a father who has two daughters, one brother, one sister, whatever, for the sake of argument. And that goes. Does the Quran give you rules for this anywhere?
Well, it's a pity that I can't quote the exact argument.
No, we can bring it up. Imagine this is the case. But the case that you generate doesn't exist in the Quranic example. It doesn't say that. If you have this situation, then this is what you give, and then it makes an error.
It says how it should be calculated.
This particular situation, so Quran never gives you, if you have a father or a mother who lives this kind of brothers or sisters and daughters, it doesn't give you that scenario. So where do you get the scenario?
Well, no.
There is no scenario, there is no ruling.
It gives you the rule. It gives you the rule.
It doesn't give you a ruling for that.
No, but it gives you the rules for what happens and how you divide inheritance.
It doesn't give you the rules for that specific situation.
General rules.
Now you're confusing
No,
this.
I'm not.
It does not give you the rules for that specific situation.
Does it give general rules? Does it give general
No,
rules?
it gives specific rules.
Huh?
Specific rules.
Specific rules?
Yes. It tells you if you have a deceased who left behind a son or a daughter and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Specific rules.
Well, those are the rules.
They're not general rules.
They're the rules.
When you
But if
specify,
you apply
hang on,
those
when you apply these
situation.
rules to which situation?
To this example.
But this situation is not covered in these rules.
No, but if you apply those
I don't get it. You cannot apply a situation which is not described in these rules. It's not inclusive of it.
So the Quran doesn't explain all the situation of how you would divide the inheritance in that situation.
In that situation, the Quran doesn't give you any rules.
Well, it's still got all the different rules, hasn't it?
Sorry?
You apply, like in a law court, you apply the rules that you've got.
Can you ask this gentleman? The ashes are coming in our eyes.
The situation.
This situation, the Quran hasn't given you any rules. So you can't say this rule is mathematically incorrect when such a rule doesn't exist.
But if you apply all the rules that are there to this situation, it becomes...
But you're applying them, amalgamating two different rules for a situation that the Quran doesn't describe. Why are you amalgamating different rules for a situation the Quran doesn't even describe?
Because you've got to apply the rules that you've got.
No, you can get the rules from the Sunnah if it doesn't exist in the Quran.
And
And
what are the rules in the Sunnah then?
if you get the rules from the Sunnah, then your question about the Quran gets the rule wrong is totally redundant. It's a made-up error, made-up mistake in the Quran, which doesn't even exist. The Quran doesn't have a rule for that situation.
No, it doesn't describe that exact situation, but it does have a set of rules, and if they're applied to that situation, it doesn't work.
I am saying, why are you applying rules which doesn't even apply? It is not for that situation. Quran hasn't given you a set of rules to apply in these situations. It hasn't, simply. By amalgamating different rules, of course you're going to make confusion.
Well, I think that's...
I'm stating to you what is obvious. The Quran specifies rules for a certain situation, specifies rule for another situation, specifies rule for another situation, and so on. By mixing and matching, you are creating rules to generate error. You are doing that yourself. The Quran hasn't given you a rule which constitutes an error in the first place.
Well, I know. I can't say more than what I've said. If you apply the rules that are given to you, you've got a family.
But the rules that you're applying doesn't even exist in the Quran. That for that particular situation.
Got a family.
You are amalgamating different rules and making up a new rule.
You've got a family and something happens and you look to the Quran.
You go to the Sunnah if it doesn't exist.
And what does it say in the Sunnah?
Suppose the Sunnah gives you a rule and it gives you a solution. That's it.
And doesn't.
And it does.
To that situation.
Yes. Similar situation.
A similar situation.
No. The situation that you're giving the Quran, if it doesn't, the Sunnah does.
You sure?
Yeah, many rules the Sunnah provides. Many rules.
Well, I don't know enough about it. Do you know the specific?
No, I'm just telling you, if it doesn't exist in the Quran, the Sunnah will explain and give you the rulings. So you will be in error by saying the Quran in this situation has got it wrong because it hasn't even got this rule in the first place.
That goes back to the other kind of argument, is that there is then it's using what you've just said head as a way of explaining that this is not an error.
I'm not explaining away, I'm just simply saying you have applied the rulings wrong. When you have two equations, you mix these two equations, make another one equation. And you get that equation wrong, and you're saying, oh, the Quran gets it wrong. Now think about it. You have two different equations. No, you have two different equations. Can you not do that in my eyes, right? Can you not put that light in my eyes? You know, you are so bad people. He puts such a bright light in my eye when I tell him not to. That's not in my eye. But look at that. Okay.
Are you running away?
Don't put this. No, don't put this in my eye, please, right?
Listen, Mansour, stop acting like a little girl.
Don't
because there's
put
a
this.
light over there.
Look.
And you're not complaining about that particular
Look,
light.
that was behind me.
Why
You
is
put
that,
it-
Mansour?
I just told
If you want, I can film from behind your back.
Mansour, can we debate? Yeah.
Yeah.
I am simply saying. Respect. Okay, put our lights on her face. Oh yeah. So that's all good. Behind me, just exactly behind me, right? No lights. And these lights as well, please. No lights. No lights in front of my.
Hey, are you a diva?
Thank you. Right? Good. Thank you. Now debate between yourselves. Where's the gentleman's one? Yeah. Right.
Sir, who is Allah?